Surah 37, As-Saffat, by the one who is denoted by the name Allah, who created my being with his names in accord with the meaning of the letter B, the Rahman, the Rahim. This chapter, particularly its opening verses, is used by people as an exorcism. By those forces that form the various dimensions, lined up in rows, and those who drive away with intensity the things which prevent and blind one from Allah, and those who recite the dhikr, remembrance. Indeed, that which you think of as your God is one, the Wahid. Well, that which is your God is one. He is the Rabb, the one who manifests with his names of the heavens and earth and everything in between, and the Rabb of the East's origin, that which will become manifest. Indeed, we have adorned Earth's heaven, configured man's brain with planets, astrological data. Now, by the comment of astrological data, we mean that, the external world is processed by the internal world, or referenced. And in Islam, we do not believe that you can look at astrological charts to predict people's character and future and stuff like this. There's some effect on the weather, but you can't necessarily predict the storm cycles and stuff based on that, at least not precisely. And protected it, Earth's atmosphere, from every rebellious Satan. The purified consciousness is beyond the reach of illusory impulse. Thus, those devils, cannot listen to the exalted assembly, Ma'Allah et Allah, and are pelted from every side. Rejected, for them is a constant suffering. Except if one snatches a word, a blazing flame shall pursue him. So ask them, those who deny you, what they think. Are they more powerful in terms of their creation? Are those that we created? Indeed, we created man from a sticky clay. No, you were surprised by their mockery. Even when they are reminded, they do not remember and take heed. When they see a sign, they ridicule it. They say, this is plainly an effect of sorcery. Will we really be resurrected after we die and become dust and bones? Along with our forefathers, say, yes, indeed, you shall be resurrected, with your heads lowered and in misery. A single cry, and then they will be looking on. Woe to us! This is the day of religion. They will say, this is the time of discernment, which you denied. Gather those wrongdoers, individual consciousness, and their partners, the bodies, and the things they deified and served, besides the law, and send them the path of hell. Stop them, indeed, they are responsible. What is wrong with you today, that you are not helping each other? Rather, today, they have succumbed and surrendered. They will question and blame each other. Indeed, you came to us from the right, as though you are informing us of the truth. No, rather, you yourselves did not believe in what you were taught, and we had no authority over you, but you were a transgressing people. But now our Rabb's word has come into effect, and now we are bound to taste the suffering. We led you astray, but indeed we were astray. Indeed, they will be partners in the suffering. This is how we deal with those who are guilty of duality. When they were told to accept the truth, there is no God, only Allah, they were egocentric, saying, shall we leave our gods for a poet possessed? No, rather, he has come as the truth and confirmed the messengers. Indeed, you will be tasters of the painful suffering, and you will not be recompensed except for what you did, your own actions. Exempt from suffering are Allah's servants who have been guided to sincerity, purity. There is a known, predetermined provision for them. Fruits, the products of the forces they attained. They will be receivers of generosity, the name Kareem, in the paradises of bliss, On thrones facing one another, cups, forces, from a flowing spring, the reality, the names, are passed around. White, with the light of gnosis, cups, forces, and pleasing to the drinkers, its users. There is no deviating effect in them, nor will they be intoxicated from it. They will never lose consciousness, won't be damaged, they won't lose any sort of consciousness. And we see elsewhere, you can have those states without the drugs. Besides them will be those whose glances will be directed upon them, illuminating their lives, as though they are eggs closely guarded, assisting in the manifestation of inherent forces. Those in paradise, will approach one another and inquire. One among them will say, "Indeed, I had a friend who used to say, 'Are you really of those who confirm this knowledge? We will really be recompensed once we have died and become dust and bones.' He will say, 'Have you witnessed this event you speak of?' Now, they have experienced this. In fact, they saw him right in the middle of hell. He said, 'By Allah, you almost rolled me into this pit. Had it not been for the favor of my Rabb, I would have definitely been of those brought forcibly before the gate of hell. Are we not of those who are freed from the restriction of the body? Except for our first experience of death, we shall not die again, and we are not to be punished either. Indeed, this is the great success. So let those who work for this. Is this better in terms of disclosure, or the zakkum tree, the person's body? Zakkum is a stifling, like when you're stuffed up with a cold, as an example. The person's body. Up to here, the subject was, in regards to the experience of the paradisical state of existence brought into effect by the forces of the names, the person manifest through faith. After this, the subject changes via various examples and similitudes to the hellish state of existence produced by the belief, 'I am this body,' and the pursuit of bodily pleasures. Indeed, we made it, the zakkum tree, the body, an object of trial, to see if they will remember their essence, or if they will live as though they are the body. Indeed, it is a tree, biological body, sourced in hell, producing the sense of burning. Its fruits, the result of thinking you are the body, are like the heads of the devils, the instinctual impulses. Indeed, they will eat from it throughout their worldly life and fill their bellies with it. After this, there will be scalding water, the ego self for them. Then indeed, their place of return will be hell. And we look back here at 1760, and it talks about the vision and the tree. For they found their forefathers astray from the reality, so they incessantly follow in their footsteps. Indeed, most of the former people before them had also gone astray from the reality, and indeed we had disclosed warners within them. Look at how those who were warned ended up. Only the servants of Allah, who were guided to sincerity, purity, were exempt from this. Indeed, Noah had turned to us, and we are the best of responders. We saved him and his family from a great affliction, and we continued his progeny, and made sure he was remembered by latter generations. Salam, peace be to Noah among the people. Thus, we reward the doers of good, those who observe none other than the law. Indeed, he is of our believing servants. Then we drowned the rest, the duelists. Indeed, Abraham was of the same understanding. He had turned to his Rabb with a sound heart, experiencing the reality of the names in his consciousness. When Abraham had asked his people, "What are you worshipping? Are you taking gods besides Allah by inventing baseless things? What do you think the Rabb of the worlds is?" Then Abraham observed the stars through his intellect and contemplated. He said, "I am sickened by what you do." And they turned away from him and departed. So Abraham approached what they took to be their gods and said, "Will you not eat? Why won't you speak?" Then approaching them, he struck the idols with his right hand. Upon seeing this, his people came back in a rush. Abraham said, "How can you take as gods and worship things you carve with your own hands, while it is Allah who created you and all your doings?" They said, "Build a furnace and throw him into the burning fire." They intended a trap for him, but we debased them to the lowest of the low. Abraham said, "Indeed, I will go to my Rabb. He will guide me." Abraham said, "My Rabb, grant me from among the righteous." So we gave him the news of a Halim clement son. When his son Ishmael reached the age when he could walk with him, Abraham said, "O my son, indeed I have seen in my dream that I was sacrificing you. What do you say about this?" His son said, "O my father, do as you're commanded. Inshallah, you will find me to be the patient." And there's not narrations that say, from the Islamic sources, that God gave Abraham this dream. And when they had both submitted, and he lay him, Ishmael, down upon his forehead, we called out to him, "O Abraham, you have indeed fulfilled your dream. Thus we requite, enable the consequences upon the doers of good, those who observe none other than the truth." So if God had commanded him, how is it good that he didn't do what God commanded? And where else does it say that God commands things to people and says, "Oh, I was just kidding," right? Indeed, this is a clear affliction, a learning experience that leads to awareness, comprehension, and we ransomed him with a great sacrifice and made sure he was remembered by latter generations. Salam, peace be to Abraham. Thus we requite the doers of good, those who fulfill their servitude as though they can see Allah. Indeed, he is of our believing servants, and we gave him the good news of Isaac, a Nabi, exemplar prophet, from among the righteous, and we blessed him and Isaac with prosperity. There are doers of good from among both of their descendants, and those who clearly wronged themselves. And we also bestowed our favor upon Moses and Aaron. We saved those two and their people from a great affliction. We helped them, and they prevailed. We gave to those two, Moses and Aaron, the explicit knowledge and guided them to the straight path and made sure they were remembered by latter generations. Salam be to Moses and Aaron. Thus we requite the doers of good, those who serve Allah as though they can see him. Indeed, both of them were of our believing servants. Indeed, Elias was also of those disclosed when he said to his people, "Will you not protect yourselves? Do you worship Baal, a statue with 4 faces made of gold, and abandon the most beautiful of creators? Your Rabb is Allah, the Rabb of your forefathers." But they denied him, Elias. Indeed, they were forcefully brought to presence, except those servants of Allah who have been guided to sincerity, purity, and we made sure he was remembered by latter generations. And because of that shrine of Baal that we encountered, me and someone encountered in a park, those verses were said over it, and we recited Quran and prayed until, the feeling of the place changed, and made sure he was remembered by latter generations. Salam be to those who follow the way of Elias. Thus, we requite the doers of good, those who serve Allah as though they can see him. Indeed, he is of our believing servants. Indeed, Lot was also of those who were disclosed, when we saved him and those close to him altogether, except the old woman, Lot's wife, who was an unbeliever among those who remained. Then we destroyed the others. Indeed, you pass by their homes in the morning, and at night do you still not use your intellect? Indeed, Jonah was also of those who were disclosed, a manifestation of the knowledge of the reality, when he ran away to the ship, returned to his ordinary life, despite the knowledge of the reality, Thinking he was of no benefit to his people, Jonah drew lots, made a choice, and was among those whose proof was invalidated. His choice led him astray. Then the fish, the life of the world, swallowed him, Jonah, while he was blaming himself, confused with feelings of guilt. Had Jonah not been of those who remember their essential function, had he not turned his countenance towards the law through remembrance, tasbih, feeling his essence, he, Jonah, would have remained inside the fish until the time of resurrection. He would have remained in a state of corporeality until his time of death. Wasn't there somebody who survived being inside a whale like several years ago? But we cast him onto the land where the forces are not known while he was ill and worn out, and caused a gourd tree, a trunkless tree, to grow over him, manifested fruits of divine gnosis through him, and disclosed him, Jonah, to 100,000 people or more. They believed, so we made them live in joy for some time. So axe them, the unbelievers, are daughters for your rub, while sons are for them. Or did we create the angels as females while they were watching? Be careful, they slander and say, Allah has begotten children. Allah has a son. Indeed, they are liars. Has Allah chosen daughters over sons? What is wrong with you? How do you make such judgments? Do you not remember and think? Or do you have clear evidence? If you are truthful, then present what you know, and they have assumed between him, Allah, and the jinn, conscious beings outside the human capacity of perception, a connection, i.e., association of a divinity to them, but the jinn know well that indeed they, who made such assumptions, shall surely be summoned, will realize such a connection does not actually exist. Allah is far beyond what they attribute to him, except those servants of Allah who have been guided to sincerity, purity. The rest are of those who shall be summoned. Indeed, neither you nor what you worship can never turn those who are pure in essence against him, except those who are to burn in hell. All the manifest angelic forces of the names will say, there are none among us without an assigned function. Indeed, it is us, yes, us, who are lined up in rows, forming the dimensions of existence and all that is contained within them. Indeed, it is us, yes, us, who engage in tasbih, effectuate their servitude by fulfilling their function. Indeed, they, the dualists, were saying, if only we had been passed down the knowledge from our forefathers, surely we would also have been of the servants of Allah who have been guided to sincerity, purity. But now they denied the knowledge of the reality. Soon they will know. And our word has been fulfilled for our disclosed servants, that indeed they will be given victory, and indeed our soldiers are victorious. So leave them for a time and observe them. Soon they will see. Do they want to hasten the manifestation of our punishment, death? Death is the beginning of suffering for those who deny their essential reality, while grace for the believers. How wretched is the awakening of those who were forewarned when it befalls them. So, leave them for a time, observe them, soon they will see. Your Rabb, the possessor of might, is far beyond what they ascribe. Salam, peace be to those who have been disclosed. Hamd belongs to the Rabb of the worlds.